Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. Last week, we started chapter 1 of book 4. Book 4 is Hopes and Consolations. Chapter 1 is Earthly Joys and Sorrows. And the first item that we are studying is Relative Happiness and Unhappiness. Okay? So we went to question 922. Today we're going to start on question 923. Paco, can you read for us? You're mute.
Yes, of course. My
Thanks.
honor. 923?
Yeah.
Is it true that a luxury for one becomes a necessity for another, and vice versa, depending on circumstantial differences? Yes, according to your material ideas, prejudices, ambition, and all the absurd notions that you gradually shed as you come to understand the truth of things. Obviously, people who once earned an income of 50,000 consider themselves very unfortunate when that income is reduced to 10,000. In this case, they perceive themselves to be less impressive to others since they can no longer maintain their status, keeping good horses, employees, and gratify all their tastes and passions. For them, these deprivations represent a lack of the very necessities of life. However, should we pity them while so many others are dying of cold and starvation and do not even have a warm place to keep at night? Those who are wise compare themselves to what is below them, never to what is above, unless it is to raise their soul to the infinite.
Okay. So we are discussing relative happiness and happiness, and what is possible here to achieve when we are incarnated on Earth. And we talked about this last week, right? That perfect happiness, we don't even understand exactly what it is. So, but we can achieve relative happiness, which is directly connected to our mental state, right? With our um, wants and needs, right? How we reconcile our wants and needs. And the question that Kardec asks here, right, is it talks really about the relativeness of the necessities, and luxury for one becomes a necessity for another, and vice versa, and so on. And we understand that, right? Uh, some Depending on where you live and what you your work, on your activities, some of the things you need to perform your duties or to live a comfortable life according to your needs are different from the ones that live somewhere else in the middle of the jungle, in a farm, in a city. So we cannot um, we cannot create a list of necessities, basic necessities that applies to everybody because they are different for each one. But what we need to understand is what we need is to live a life that allows us to be helpful to society. That's the ideal, right? And the necessity for us to do that, we are all in perfect spirits. So we normally we want more than we need. But if not having what you need makes you suffer, uh, greatly suffer, and prevents you from living a normal life, then we need to try to find a balance in our lives, and the balance is different for each one of us. The advice from the spirits here is we should always compare ourselves with those that have less to see how privileged we are wherever we are, right? So if we have a roof over our head, we have a place to live, we are better than those that do not have, that are homeless. I remember the prayer that Divaldo used to close all his talks, right? When he mentioned, if I don't have a roof over my head, at least that I have a place to sleep, and the prayer of thanks that Divaldo used to close his talks, right? So again, the problem that we have is we have a tendency to look up, right? To envy those that have more than us. And to very many of us consider unjust those that have more than us because we were not lucky, or um, uh, we were um, we didn't have the opportunities that the advantages that others have, and in reality, according to Spiritism, we are exactly where we need to be in our condition. Now, it's our own responsibility to try to improve our living conditions, our spiritual and material life according to our needs. So, as we look to what we have achieved in our life, we need to look back, and the question that was asked that we discussed last week when we were talking about San Augustine, right? If you discarnate tonight and you wake up tomorrow in the spiritual world, what are you going to miss? Who are you going to want to avoid meeting? And all these things related to us as eternal spirits, right? Because if we have the latest car model, or we had a 10-year-old car, and we go back to the spiritual world, it doesn't make any difference, except for those that are going to inherit our car, right? For us, it doesn't make any difference. Now, if we leave behind people that counted on us, and we are going to miss us, not depending on us, but miss us because of the work we did, but because of the company we keep, and these are the things that are going to be the reward we carry with ourselves to the spiritual world. But living in the physical world, we need to um, we need to find the best conditions for ourselves in terms of being able to function. Because if we struggle to survive, our focus is only to find a way to survive, and in that sense, it makes very difficult for us to be of help to others because we are so much focused on our survival, right? On having what to eat, on having a shelter, those things. So um, to find balance, to find the, the middle ground, like Buddha teached us, is always the challenge. And again, for each one of us is different. So it's not our role to criticize anyone. It's our role is to look at ourselves and analyze our own needs and our own possibilities and what we are doing with our possibilities. Okay? Questions here? Comments? No? Okay.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Sure.
The format.
Sure. Increase the font here. One
Yeah.
second. There you go. Increase like this.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's cut off at the end. Oh, I know, I know.
Can
Mis-
you read?
that's right. Okay. Number 924.
Yeah.
Misfortune can strike anyone regardless of behavior, even for the most upright. Is there a way of protecting ourselves from misfortune? Such misfortune must be borne with resignation and without defiance in order to progress. However, you may always find solace in the hope of a happier future, provided you do what is needed to reach it.
Well, when I talk about misfortune here, it can be any sort of things, right? It can be financial, it can be health, it can be a loss of loved ones, many different things. Spiritism teaches us about our condition as eternal spirits. So the way to look at our misfortunes have to be in the sense of um, what can we learn from it, and how can I overcome or accept. We need to, what we always say here, right, to have active resignation, meaning we need to fight to overcome the misfortunes that come our way. But if we cannot, we need to learn to accept it with resignation. The spirits teach us that the difference between a trial and an atonement is that normally we see that is as an atonement when we become angry, we revolt, we become rebellious with it, because an atonement is a mistake from the past that we already made, and that we are here to correct. And because we made a mistake, we don't want to face it. And trials normally are opportunities for us to learn and to grow. So normally we face trials with more resignation. Again, I'm talking in general terms. Each
Of
individual
course.
is different, right? But trials, you can see many people who see with excitement as an opportunity to learn, as an opportunity to grow, right? And with atonements, we normally get um, downcast, frustrated, angry with the challenges in general. But of course, you have different spirits. You have spirits that reach a level of evolvement that they have to face the atonements, and they face it with resignation. You have just to look at Chico Xavier with all the physical and health problems that he had, and he never complained, and um, he never said anything on it, right? We hear very few stories of him asking Emmanuel what's going on with him, right? That's the famous one, that he was in a very difficult situation, and Emmanuel said that he was going to talk to Mary, the mother of Jesus, right? And then he comes back and said, Mary sent a message to you. This will pass. Everything passes. This will also pass. And then he gets a little bit frustrated. You receive a message from the mother of Jesus, and all she says is, this will pass, right? But it's a lesson for all of us. And normally we tend to look at this when we are struggling. We remember this, right? But we have to remember this also in the good moments, right? Because the good moments will also pass, right? It is our opportunity to enjoy the good moments because they will also finish, right? Because a world of trials and atonements it's a world of trials and atonements. We have to face trials and atonements here, and our opportunity to grow is to learn from these trials and atonements that we still struggle to learn from them. Okay.
And I think that suggestion over there, so the first question applies here too. If you have misfortune, let's say financial difficulties, but you just look up and look at the ones who are well financially, we may get jealous. But if you look down and see, well, there's people even worse situation than mine, it helps you to deal with that situation. The health issues, but you only keep looking at the athletics who have no health issues, you get end of them. But if you look around you, see other people with health conditions as well. It minimizes the suffering somehow.
Yeah.
It is cancer therapy now that when it first diagnosed with cancer, they have those groups that you are they put it together in a group with other people the same disease. So I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people here like me, just like myself, that helps you to deal with that disease much easier as well. So if you just keep looking up, yes, you're gonna get angry, you're gonna think God is no, it's not fair with me, but when you look around, you see a lot of people suffering the same problems, and if you look down, you see the people in a worse situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you look up and you see people that apparently have everything, and they still have so many issues, and you know, it's, we have to we have to focus on our personal journey. We have to focus on what we need to improve ourselves morally and intellectually, and because we can help others, but we cannot do anything for others. We can be of assistance, but they have to make their own choices, and each one has its own path. Then we have the next question, which is something that a lot of people ask.
Yeah. Why does God so often bestow the gifts of fortune on people who do not appear to deserve it? Wealth appears to be a favor to people who only see the present. But you must remember that fortune is often a more dangerous trial than poverty.
Yes,
Oh, explain that.
yes.
I don't know. I really explain it to me.
The thing is,
I think my chances right back up.
yeah, the responsibility of those that have fortune is to help. They can help a larger number of people. They can do with their money more than those that don't have money, right? Because
That's true. That's true.
those that have money to survive, that money to live, a comfortable life, but doesn't have any excess money, right? What they can offer to others is their time, their work, but they cannot help much more than that because they cannot help people get out of poverty. Now, people that have money, that are wealthy, they have the responsibility of alleviate the suffering and the pain of those who do not have in any way that they can. And again, you see wealthy people, especially in this country, very wealthy people that use a lot of their money to help and assist, and through foundations, through donations. But you see a lot of people that use their money uh, to to gain even more money and to live a very privileged life, and do not look to those that need, right? I always remember a work colleague that I had in the beginning of my career that he used to play the lottery, and he used to say that if I win the lottery, I don't want to see any poor friends around me. I'm going to go very far from everyone of them.
I like that.
So, it is important that first, the difference between wealthy and poor at our level of evolution is important. If we are imperfect spirits, if we all had a comfortable condition of living all equal, the majority of us wouldn't make any effort. We are lazy by nature, are the majority of us. So we need these differences and we need the struggle, because the struggle is what forces us to chase improvement in our lives. Now, for those that are blessed, let's say, with fortune through their own achievements, which they have even more responsibility than those that inherited. We saw this in the moral laws, right? Because those that come from nothing and accumulate a fortune, they know what is to have nothing. So their responsibility is bigger than someone that is already born and never had to want for anything. So they don't really know what is to need money, right? So you think of the royal family in England, right? They were born in wealth, right? And many of them do a lot of charitable work. But they, it's great that they do the work, but they never needed for anything. They never needed money, so they don't really understand what it is to need money. But as we evolve and we change, we go, we are all going to have the opportunity of having a fortune, or we had, or we will have, because it is an experience that we have to go through to test ourselves if we will be able to use the wealth to help and assist those in need, which is the objective of wealth, to make humankind progress, right? So that is, in that sense, that is more dangerous, because we see many of people that have a lot of money today, and they use their money only for their own profit, or for the majority of the money. They don't really provide much of help and assistance, and some of them even use it. We're not going to even go to that, right? But
Yeah.
but I think I like to think, and I know that Elmo thinks the same, right? That we learn enough through all these years to be able to deal with a fortune. So if we ever win the lottery, I think we can
Take my chances.
yeah, we can take our chances, but it doesn't guarantee, right? We can get distracted very easily, right?
The more you know, the more responsible you are too, right?
Exactly. Yes. So if any of us here, if we win the lottery and we don't make good use of the money, we are going to have even more responsibility than those that do not have the knowledge we have today, right? So
Take my chances.
Yeah.
John, just a comment. There have been individuals that have won the lottery more than one time. That would be quite an interesting exploration to see how it fared for them. I mean, it could have been a great challenge, or perhaps they succeeded. Who knows?
Yeah, I found it interesting. I read a couple of cases. It's very rare, but I read a couple of cases that people won once and then won again, right? One thing about winning the lottery is, in general, 6 months after you win, your level of happiness goes back to where it was before you won.
Oh,
Yes, that's a study that they did. It's not that you lose all your money, nothing like that. Some people lose, some people don't know how to do it, but the level of happiness, it takes 6 months for it to go back to where it was before you won the lottery. Again, average. We're not talking, and there are
yeah.
always exceptions, right? But on average, it takes 6 months to go back. So, maybe those that won the lottery once and are doing a good job with their money are given a second chance to do even better. Or, I don't know. It's a good question, Carol. I think it's a question that I'm going to take back to the spiritual world to understand when I'm on the other side.
Well, for one thing, also, they'll be dealing with financial planners and long lost cousins
Oh, yes. Yeah.
out of the woodwork, right?
Yes. When you win the lottery, you find that you have many relatives that you never heard of, right?
Yeah. Okay, 926. Does civilization, by creating new ones, become the source of new afflictions? The problems of your world are proportional to the artificial ones that you create for yourselves. People who are able to set limits on their desires and see what is above them without feeling envy spare themselves many disappointments. The richest person is the one with the fewest needs. Wow. You envy the pleasures of those who appear to be favored by fortune. But do you know what is in store for many of them? If they use their wealth only for themselves, they are selfish and a terrible misfortune awaits them. Instead of feeling empathy, you should feel pity for them. God sometimes allows the wicked to prosper, but you should not envy their prosperity because they will pay for it with bitter tears. When a righteous person experiences the trials of misfortune, they reap rich rewards if they bear them with courage. Remember Jesus' words, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted.
Yes. So, of course, civilization creates new ones, and that becomes the source of new afflictions. Yes, we all know about our cell phones today, right? It's an object of desire. Children very young, they all already want their phones, and there is a very long discussion, and some countries are forbidding social media for younger than 14. There are discussions in classrooms on how to deal with cell phones. So all of this, what are you going to say? Well, we should just eliminate all cell phones because it's only creating trouble. That's not the answer, right? Because people die in car accidents, we are going to eliminate all cars. Because planes fall from the sky, we are going to eliminate all planes. It's we need to evolve. Our evolution, uh, civilization creates new wants, yes. With these new wants comes new afflictions, yes. But it is all part of our evolution as human beings. Now, you see, when we talk of all of this, we are only thinking about the material life, right? We're not talking about the spiritual life because we tend to forget that what matters is our moral and intellectual involvement, our spiritual growth. So, by having learning how to use a computer, a phone, driving a car, flying a plane, whatever, we are learning, we are progressing, we are learning intellectually. Of course, because we are imperfect spirits, we create imperfect things. And the work to perfect those things, right, is also an opportunity for us to continue growing and to continue evolving, right? We, we talk about the things that were important for those 100 years ago that are not important for us now, right? Newspapers, for instance, people could not live without reading the newspaper. I remember my father every morning, first thing that he did in the morning was to go out, pick up the newspaper, and read what was new, right? Nowadays, very few people buy physical newspaper, right? We have all the news,
Yeah, that's true.
24/7 access to the news on our phones. Is it progress? Yes, it is. It is good? Well, it's good and bad. There are advantages, there are disadvantages, right? You know immediately what's happening in the war, or in the wars around the world. And when you watch movies from the Second World War, the persecution and the killing of the Jews, it took a long time for people to believe that it was happening. A lot of people were talking about it, but many people did not believe, right? So, news today go much faster, of course. We're not going into the fake news because people choose to believe in things that are not real also. But that's a different story, right? That's also the problems with progress and the problems with the availability of information. There is so much availability that people end up choosing their sources, and if they choose a source that is not it's not a good source, you end up getting bombarded with fake information. But again, it's an opportunity to learn, right? When we talk about the internet, is it the internet good or bad? It's not good and not bad. It's neutral, right? It's like money. It's neutral. What we do with it is what's good and what's bad. Is the internet a good source for us to evolve? Yes, it is very important. We have a lot of benefits from it, right? AI nowadays is the latest
Yeah.
thing that everybody's talking about, right? And everybody looks at AI. Is it good or bad? It is, again, it's neutral. It's a tool for us to learn more and to use for our progress now. Is AI perfect? Far from it, right? It still gives a lot of misleading information and makes mistakes because it's not a perfect instrument. It's going to improve. It's not going to dominate the world, replacing human beings, because we know that the spirit is what is behind everything. So you cannot replace the spirit with anything. You can create things that have abilities to do things faster than the human being can, but it cannot replace the human beings, contrary to what some people believe that AI or robots are going to replace human beings. They're not. And again, we are eternal spirits. If we end up destroying this planet, we are just going to move to a different planet, as I always repeat, right? And we are going to go with a great responsibility for having destroyed the planet that served us for so many incarnations. So when we talk about new wants, yes, it's natural. It's natural to us to be curious about new things, to learn about new things, but it's our responsibility to choose to separate the wheat from the chaff again, right? What is important to us? What helps us? And again, each individual has different needs, right? So some people that are using AI for very good things, and some people are trying to use AI to cause problems. More hackers, more lies being created. But the AI in itself is neutral. The use we do with it is what makes the difference, right?
Yeah, I think
I, I, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
is when the spirit says the happier is the one with the fewest needs, right? Is the ability to differentiate needs and wants. Because
Yes.
I want a Lamborghini, but if I don't have, I'll find it out. But if I say that I need a Lamborghini, then I will create a tremendous amount of trouble to myself. Now I'm going to sell my house and sell my family to get a Lamborghini and commit all kinds of crime to get a Lamborghini because I need a Lamborghini. That is different. But I want a Lamborghini. I want to give you one, I'll take it, no problem. But I don't need it. When you need things, then it becomes a problem. When you need things that you don't really need, I
Yes.
to clarify this.
Yeah. Yes, Paco.
Yeah. I meant, it seems to me that when they said a significant discrepancy between the involvement of society and technology and the moral level, that's when we find some big problems. We do find big problems there. Now the media is now considered, there's such a thing as media addiction.
Yes.
Okay, people get self-absorbed in those things, and sometimes I find that even artificial intelligence, you see in Facebook stories that they're not true, totally untrue, and you can tell they are totally untrue, and they appear like because of the AI. I've seen the new generation in which I don't, if you drive, sometimes you cross the street and people are crossing the street with the cell phones. So there's a big discrepancy. To me nowadays, a big discrepancy between knowledge in terms of technology and moral development. I
Yeah.
see that. I see that like a big discrepancy here. I don't know
This,
if you're.
yeah, the spirits tell us, right? The two wings of evolution, the intellectual and the moral. The intellectual is much faster, right? We move faster on the intellectual side. And with that, at a certain point, we will need to bring up the moral side.
The moral side, because
Yeah.
that's how I see things. It's like that referring to the fortune, that the question that we were before. We even as a nation, we denied help to other nations that are still struggling.
Yeah.
And we are a wealthy nation.
Yes.
So that's my point is that there's a big discrepancy between the involvement of technology and progress and moral and spiritual.
Yeah, but our responsibility, individual responsibility, is to prepare ourselves to help those that are struggling on this
Oh yeah,
intellectual and moral, the lack of moral involvement, and going too fast on the intellectual involvement and using it for to cause harm to others or to cause problems for themselves, because a lot of people use social media and other things to cause issues to themselves, right? You see those two individuals, the two young boys that killed in the mosque in San Diego, right? They met each other
oh that's
online. They had they they feeded each other on the hatred against the Muslims, and ended up um, committing the crime and killing themselves. So you see the dangers of of the intellectual progress,
exactly.
the progress that we have. But again, um, we cannot. to avoid it, it's not the solution, right? We need to live in society, and living in society is using the tools that society provides to us, but learning how to use them to our benefit and to the benefit of those around us, and knowing how to differentiate what is, like Elmo just said, right? What we need, and differentiate from what we want, right?
Yeah.
We cannot isolate ourselves from the world. So we need to be informed of what's happening around us, right? You cannot go outside and ignore everything that is happening around you, because if you live in a city, right? We for those that live here in New York, you need at least to know what's happening around you in your neighborhood, right? Because
Yeah.
to deal with the situations that happen in your neighborhood. So you cannot isolate yourself, right? You cannot become a hermit. You can, but there is no progress in becoming a hermit. So yes,
But
with
but they
progress,
are you know, but they are, you find that every so often they're very clues. Yeah, hermit somewhere. You find them. I find them. Every clues. Yeah, not many, but they are.
they are they are
Yeah,
selfish, right? Because they are avoiding society
that's
because
true.
it's a selfish act.
That's true. Yes.
Okay.
927. The superfluous is certainly not indispensable to happiness, but this is not true with regard to the necessities of life. So, isn't the misfortune of those who are deprived of them real? A person is truly unfortunate only when deprived of what is necessary for survival and physical health. If this deprivation is a result of their own behavior, they have only themselves to blame. If it is the fault of others, serious accountability lies with those who have caused it. I like that one.
Yes. So here we're talking about basic necessities, right? What we need to survive. So we need shelter and food. If we don't have if we don't have shelter, food, and clothes, who's responsible for that? It can be our own responsibility. There are many people that, because of their own carelessness, we're not going to talk about mental problems. The majority of homeless in the city of New York have mental problems. It's a different story. We're talking about those that end up homeless because of their own wastefulness, right? Then it's their own responsibility. But when you have those that are homeless here because they have mental problems, then it's the problem of society to find a way to help and assist those that are homeless because of mental issues and other issues, right? Those that end up in complete poverty because of lack of resources. We have those also, right? In a world of regeneration, you wouldn't find these individuals. You would find, or they will be the exception of the exception, right? But you will also not find uh, the ultra wealthy billionaires, because everything is more balanced. But it is the responsibility of society to take care of those that are lacking
Yes.
the basic necessities. But we live in an imperfect world. We live in an imperfect society that doesn't fully know how to address the problem. There are things that we do that provide some relief, that provide help to some, but it is not a complete solution, and it doesn't solve the problem. Sometimes it only temporarily solves the problem, and then the problem comes back. So it's what happens to many homeless, right? Because they go to shelters and they don't like the shelters because it's violent. They steal their things. So we need to create better shelters. That's the responsibility of society. We need to create better prisons for those that so you don't go to a prison and leave the prison worse than when we went in, right? These are all responsibilities of society. It is the fault of others. Serious accountability lies with those that have caused it. So those that are not, that have the resources and the ability to solve these problems and are not doing anything, they are the ones that are going to face the responsibility. And again, when we look at those responsible for the government in all levels of government, we're not talking about president, governor, mayor. We're talking about all the levels below. They can work to make a difference. They can provide solutions, at least better solutions for those that are struggling. And if they are not doing their job, they're going to have to face the consequences, right? And it goes also beyond them. It goes for those that can dedicate their time to help those in need, working through NGOs, working to organizations that provide assistance to those in need, to food pantries and things like that, right? We know people that work in those. So we can all do something. We can all do our part, and we are going to look at ourselves at the end of the journey and see what have we done and what we not done when we had the opportunity to do, right? I cannot solve hunger in the world, but I can solve some problems that are within my reach, right? I'm not going to blame myself because there are still hungry people in the world that I cannot do anything, right? You can do limited things, but if everyone does something, then you solve the problem, right? The problem is that the majority don't do what they need to do.
That's true. 928.
Yeah.
By our natural aptitudes, God shows each of us our special vocation in this world. Are many of the problems of life attributable to a failure to follow that vocation? That is true. Parents, through pride or greed, often force their children to deviate from the path set for them by nature, but they will be held responsible for the results of this misdirection. A. Do you approve of the son of a well regarded individual becoming a shoemaker, for instance, if he was endowed with a natural talent for it? You must not waste time on absurd suggestions and exaggerations. Civilization has its necessities. Why would the son of a man holding a high position become a shoemaker if he were able to do something more important? Such an individual must always make himself useful according to his faculties without contradicting common sense. For instance, if he does not have the attitude to be a good lawyer, he might be a good engineer, mechanic, or any other profession. Assuming a position outside one's intellectual scope is one of the most frequent causes of failure and disappointment. Lack of aptitude for the career one has set out to follow is a never ending source of disappointment. Often, pride prevents people who fail in one career to seek a humbler vocation. They are frequently tempted to commit suicide in order to escape what they view as humiliation. If a sound moral education elevates them above the stupid prejudices of pride, they're never at a loss to earn a living.
Okay. That's a very interesting question, right?
At the very end, well, go on.
Yeah. First, let's remember that when Kardec asked, shoemaker was a very humble profession at the time of Kardec. Nowadays, you have some shoemakers that are, the Louboutins and
Making good money.
yes. But so let's understand the shoemaker here, meaning very humble work, right? What the spirits are telling us here is that we all come with a vocation. We all have special vocations, right? What happens is that many times society, our family, society, or other ideas move us in different directions, and we end up failing in where we would why we would succeed if we had followed our vocation, right? So the responsibility will be, in the case, of course, at the time of Kardec, parents would force their kids to choose a profession much more than nowadays. But nowadays, we still have parents
Oh yes. Oh yes.
force children, especially in some cultures, right? That the children are forced to follow the so-called important professions, right? You have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. I remember listening this when I was a child, right? But again, of course, nowadays there are so many different paths to follow, right? So many different opportunities. But what I see out there sometimes is interesting, right? Because we have a lot of people that follow what they want, but what they lack many times is patience, right? Because they try to achieve very fast success in what they want to do. And if they don't achieve it very quickly, they get frustrated, they start doing other things, It is, you go, people joke that you go to a restaurant and all people that work in a restaurant are frustrated because they wanted to have other professions, and because they don't, they end up working in restaurants, right? You go to LA and all the workers in restaurants are frustrated actors and actresses, right? Yeah. So again, it involves self-knowledge, which goes back to what we discussed last week with St. Augustine, right? Because if I want to be a musician in this life, I'm going to get hungry because I have no abilities to play instruments, or I don't have a good ear for music. So if I insist of being a musician without the abilities, I'm going to end up failing miserably, right? So the choices we make is our own responsibility. But if someone forced us as young people to follow a path, they can only force us to a certain point. Eventually, we are individual spirits. We don't need to please those that are forcing us. Again, I know it's not easy. In many cultures, it's very hard. Like other cultures, less hard. But the discussion here on the second part is if you have the ability to do something that helps society in a better way, why would you choose something that doesn't help much? That's the example of the shoemaker here, right? What he was trying to say is, if your family has the means to send you to a college where you can learn a good and a useful profession, I don't know, maybe a lawyer, let's say a lawyer that he used here, right? Why would you be a bricklayer, right? You know more than that. You can do better than that. You have the conditions. You should try to do better than that. Doesn't mean that we are going to do it. And we see a lot of people that fail at all these challenges, but that's the general concept here that the spirits and then Kardec is trying to tell us is that if everyone followed their vocation, we would have a lot less unhappy people in the world, right?
That's true.
Again, unfortunately, the society doesn't reward a lot of professions the way they should. And we talk about teachers here a lot of times, right? Teachers are paid much less than they should because of the importance of the work they do, right? So unfortunately, we still have these problems in society. But in an ideal world, teachers would be paid enough to be proud of the work and happy to do the work, right? But what happens nowadays is that they are paid so badly that they end up leaving behind a career that they like for something that they are going to make more money, but they are not going to be happy with. It's the imbalances of society that we have to address, and as we evolve, we are going to address more. Comparing to the time of Kardec, there is more fluidity in terms of the abilities to achieve our aims. There are more opportunities, but of course, we are far from ideal yet. Okay.
I want to make a point here that at the very end, it says that if a sound moral education, I've always believed that schools should incorporate. I don't want to call it moral. I don't want to call it religious, but I think schools in general, the educational systems in general, should include some kind of emotional development or inner guidance, because
Yes.
if we were to have that, the kid could probably talk to the parents. Listen, this is my liking. This is my passion. It would be different if we were to include that in the school system. And it says here, if it sound, that's not the words that they used in that time. But in today's world, I would call some kind of a guidance class or emotional development.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, the moral education, the first responsibility is for the parents. But
Exactly.
if
But
they can, school have teach also moral education, it would help society.
yeah,
Unfortunately, schools today are teaching other things, right? And a lack of teaching. It's so many troubles. But anyway.
yeah, it's a difficult. Sometimes I believe that sometimes schools have to take the responsibility that parents do not want to carry, because what we're going to do, just because the parents don't want to do it, we just know that's not to be socially responsible as a society.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we have this weekend? On Saturday, we have a very good talk by Nina. Nina is a 18-year-old Brazilian spiritist worker that
Wow.
is becoming more and more well known. She's going to talk about. Let me find her talk here. It's a very interesting subject she chose. The parables and our lives. What roles are we playing? Marina Alves, Nina, she's from Bahia in Brazil, and is going to be her first talk in English. And she's 18 or 19? 18. She's 18 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
She started 15. She started doing
Yeah, she's been doing
in Congress.
Yeah, she's been talking in Congress since she was 15. So it's really some of the new workers that we have in Spiritism. And she was at the World Spiritist Congress, and I was having lunch in a table, and she sit next to me, and I asked her, "Do you speak English?" And she said, yes, I do. So I said, so you want to give a talk in English? Have you ever given one? She said, no, but I would love to. I said, great.
Wow.
So I'll invite you. So she said, she's in college, of course. She said, I need to do later in the year, cannot be beginning of the year. So it's this Saturday. So the parables in our lives, what roles are we playing? Saturday, 11 a.m. This Sunday is the fifth Sunday of the month. So we're going to go back to the study of the Gospel according to Spiritism. We are in the beginning of chapter 2 of the Gospel that Elmo is going to cover for us. Okay? And the Dani is not here, right, for the book club. Let me see, she wrote something to me here. Let's see if she wrote what is she doing with the book club. No, she's just doing the work in the center there in Orlando. I think they are going to stop the book club. This coming Wednesday is going to be the last, but I'm not sure. Fabio, you know?
Yes, this coming Wednesday and the following. I think we stop on the 10th.
Okay, so we have 2 more Wednesdays that we're finishing the book Ardo's Ascension, right? Are we going to finish the book?
No, we're still in the middle of it.
Still in the middle. Okay, thanks, Fabio.
Mhm.
All right, Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, John, for hosting, and thank you, Elmo. Thank you, Paco, for reading for us this evening, and thank you, everyone, for being here and participating. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks to be together as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Spirit's Book, Chapter 1, Book 4, Relative Happiness and Unhappiness. May we improve our material and spiritual resources according to our needs. Let's find the best conditions for ourselves and to find the best balance and middle ground. We can overcome and learn from our misfortunes. May we apply active resignation to face our challenges in a positive way. Circumstances will change, and they will pass eventually. The goal is to evolve and improve morally and intellectually, using courage and discernment while we live in society. What have we done to assist? What can we do that perhaps we ignored? What are our natural aptitudes or vocational callings? Self-awareness and knowledge is important in seeking our development going forward. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all of our participants. We pray for inner peace and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritus centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, our friends, loved ones, and coworkers. And may we remind ourselves now to go forth as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.